Thank you for joining the May 21st, 2019 VOLTA call. Main items today are going over new JIRA issues and then some updates on Sprint 1 for 2.1. And we do record the sessions and post them to YouTube, so please keep that in mind during the discussions and if we have any presentations today. And with that, I think we'll go right over to the new JIRA, starting with 1646. And we have a block of issues here, starting with this one, that are porting over functionality to the Golang OpenOLT adapter. So I expect we'll be able to go through this first batch fairly quickly, since it's a port of existing functionality on the, I believe on the Python based. The first one, 1646, allow MFR description to be VOLTA project so ONOs can figure out this is a VOLTA OLT. Any questions on this item? And we don't have an assignee for this one yet. Let me see if Amit is on the bridge. I don't see Amit on the bridge either. Do we have anyone who is looking to take on this work? I know there were a few folks who were considering participating in the migration to Go work for the OpenOLT adapter, in addition to the DT and Radisys resources.
Hi, Julie. I think Amit is dialing in, so probably it needs.
Okay. Let me wait till we have him on the bridge. Thanks, Bjorn.
Okay.
And Amit, are you on the audio bridge?
Yeah, yeah, Julie.
Great.
Can I'm audible?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to check if I was audible.
Okay. On the first few items that we're looking at today for new tickets that you opened, these are ones for porting over the work to the Golang adapter. Do you want to look for assignees or volunteers on this call, or not necessarily?
I don't think that's necessary to do it over this call. Yeah.
All right. I will not do that then. Thank you. And we'll go to the next one, 1647. Another one, porting functionality to the Golang adapter. Support use of any NNI port. Any comments? All right. Next one in this batch, 1648, improve on connect retry mechanism. And again, this is a port of existing functionality to the Golang OpenOLT adapter. And then 1649 is generate OLT connectivity related alarms in Golang OpenOLT adapter. And if anyone would like me to slow down on these, let me know. Next one is 1650. Change max own use per pond to 128 for the Golang OpenOLT adapter.
Arum take that.
Ah, great. I see his name is assigned there. Thanks, Sean. And then the next one is 1651. Include logical device ID in the alarms raised by Golang OpenOLT adapter. And it looks like Arun has taken on that one as well.
I have a question about that one. It's the adapters don't have any knowledge of logical device IDs now. How are they going to do that?
Yes, Ken, you're correct. So that's why I put in a comment there saying that this needs more discussion. So
okay.
Before it's picked up for implementation.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And so I have a question then, since Arun is assigned to this one, is that something, Amit, that that you expect that discussion with him would happen in the background or over the comments here, or do we need to take time on this call? Let me see if we have Arun. I don't see Arun on the bridge.
Arum is not on.
And
Okay.
I think Amit, you're asking Girish and Arun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should do it over VOLTHA discuss or.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
see, in any case, this is not possible, right? With 2.x, the adapter does not see the logical device, so there is no way the alarm, if submitted solely by the adapter, can have the logical device ID. And so I think the question has to be asked the reverse way. If is it necessary that the alarm should have the logical device ID or not? So
Right.
I think we should go back to the requirement and then see if that is necessity or not.
So on today in the VOLTHA stream, is the logical device is the solely device ID used for the alarm indication? Matt, I don't know what it.
Yeah, in 1.x, since all the adapters are within the core, they have access to the logical device IDs, and in fact, the events protobuf was built for alarms to show to use logical device ID as an ID there. I think that has to change, and alarms raised from devices needs to have a device ID or any ID. It doesn't have to be specific to device ID or whatever, but it should be just an ID. And alarm raised in a core that have access to logical device, they can use a logical device. But in adapters, it should be just a device ID, which means the event proto has to be changed.
But okay, okay. I think maybe we should flow this up in the VOLTHA discuss. But you know, just one more question. So both logical device ID and also the physical device ID are captured in the alarm event message. Is that true? Or it's only the logical device ID right now in the VOLTHA stream?
I think in the alarms per se, it was only the logical device ID. I need to double check that, but I think I saw only a logical device ID there.
Then do you know why is that? You know, why do we start with a logical device ID to start with in the beginning?
I think it's just because it was just easier because everything was in the core, right? So when the alarms was raised, it was used there. But again, like I should check all the IDs in the events there. Definitely there was a logical device ID there, so I don't know if there was a device ID as well. And like I said, we should reduce that just to an ID,
right,
which can be anything.
Okay.
Hi, so because we're talking about alarms and 2.x, we want to bring up another topic on alarms that is being implemented on the Golang OpenOLT adapter. So Ken, you have given a few comments on the implementation that was submitted. And so basically what we understand is that your suggestion is not to treat events and alarms as the same thing, right? And ideally, as per what was discussed in the VOLTHA Connect, VOLTHA should be dealing only with events, and it should be some external system who would take in those events and then classify them as alarms and maintain the state and decide upon the severity of the alarm and things like that, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so the thing is, what we are thinking of, and as Zach also pointed out, do we want to address that right away? Because we don't have a consensus on how exactly we would want to implement that in VOLTHA. Or do we bring in the same thing that we had in 1.x? So bring up the Golang OpenOLT adapter to feature parity level in terms of alarms also to the Python version, and then chase and get consensus on how alarms should be implemented in VOLTHA 2.x, and then take up that as a separate activity.
From a practical perspective, like you may be correct, but what I find is like the moment we take one path, just to make things to look priority as priority, even if it's not correct, it takes a long time to undo these things. So it's like my preference will be, let's start on the right foot and do the right thing, instead of just putting something there and then later on this will just be in the backlog, go on in the backlog, and maybe will never be changed. That might be.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ken. It's just that if we were to take that path, the request would be that we need to chase that a little quicker because it needs consensus, right? So we would need,
for sure.
Yeah, so we would need multiple participants in the community to work on that and to come to a complete solution, and then we start with the implementation. So I think basically my request would be that we prioritize it.
Oh, absolutely. Like now you will have the urgency to get it done this way. If we just get to feature priority, I don't think there will be such an urgency and the work will not be done.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Like the community may disagree, that's all right.
I don't see a problem with that. It's just that there's going to be dependency on the reviews and comments from the community, and I would expect that people prioritize it, and that's what would be on my wish list. And if we have a consensus on that, at least that okay, people are willing to prioritize it, then I don't see a problem in going that way.
So sorry, got distracted a little bit. So do we want to also, so what's the conclusion? So still have the Go adapted parity of the 1.x or not? Or just go directly to the final framework? Yeah,
so the conclusion, what my understanding is to derive how alarms or /events should be handled in VOLTHA in 2.x. So I think we need to carry forward what Zach has already started and close on that. Yeah, close on that, get a consensus on that and say that, okay, this is how it's going to be, and then do the implementation.
So to throw in there, I don't think that we are to the point where we have a implementable spec for the events and alarms yet. And because of that, and because 2.0 is coming out, I guess I would prefer if we could reach 1.0 parity or 1.x parity and then move on with that in maybe the 2.1 branch of things. I just, is that what you guys are speaking to, or are we talking about? My understanding is that some of the things that the patch set that was submitted does are needed either for testing or for integration into higher level projects like SIVA. Is that what other people, is that the understanding that other people have as well?
I would actually prefer that we tag 2.0 today and not include any of it, because we've been sitting on it now for 2 weeks.
I would concur.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the more we kick this can on tagging, the more stuff starts sneaking in, and the more regressions we got to do, and the more fixing we got to do. And it's like, I think at this point right now, step one is we tag what we have, or we add a new sprint to 2.0.
Okay, and I think that's reasonable as well. It either goes in or doesn't.
So backtracked a little bit. So if we the tagging, I certainly support that, but there are a series of the like Helm chart related JIRA, Zach, Open. Those doesn't have to be there when the tagging is occurring, right?
Yeah, the Helm charts are pretty much independent of the tagging of the core, its set of images, and then the adapters themselves.
Okay. The Helm chart will be helpful when people want to download it and then start doing the installation kind of work.
Sure.
Okay.
But I mean, there are ways for running a dev environment independent than running the Helm Kubernetes. So I mean, it's not a blocker to running it. It's just the Helm way is the preferred way to run it in production.
Right. So I think I totally approve. Not approve. Sorry, I have no agree with that. So is there any way we can just tag the 2.0 today?
The reviews are out there. I just need the plus ones, and we can do it.
It just needs to be a priority.
Okay, so who has the review right? Which one? Which is there a JIRA related to the tagging, and then there's a link about what's the review?
No, I mean there's just the Garrett entries for tagging 2.0 for VOLTHA Go, OpenONU, OpenOLT, and actually the ONOS image that we use with VOLTHA as well.
Yeah.
And I've piled on as many people as I can think of who would be stakeholders in that process. So it really just comes down to a decision. If you know everyone's ready with it the way it is as it is right now, you know, either verbally or put your +1 on there, and you know any one of us can +2 and submit, and then the jobs kick off. It's just, you know, now's the time to decide.
I already merged the one that you have for VOLTHA Go, Matt.
Okay, well there you go. All right, so now ONU I'll do myself just because I don't know if anyone else has worked on it. And really the last one is for OpenOLT, both Python and Golang. They both are balled up together. So is it in a state where we want to go ahead and tag it 2.0 just so we can move on?
I think, Amit, do you agree with about tagging the 2.0 today?
I need to check with the team as to what the state is regarding the reviews.
Regarding what?
The submissions that they would have had if everything is already merged.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, a number of these that are waiting purposefully, I have not been looking at them for the intent of waiting until after 2.0 is tagged. So the alarms conversation and then any kind of other, you know, tech profile related features, kind of been holding back on that because we want to have things stable before we tag. And if we want to start letting some of that get in, you know, again, now it's, you know, what has to be verified, what has to be checked. You know, do we want to sit there and rush the 1.x alarms if we'd rather do it the 2.x way, but just do it in 2.1?
No, Matt, not those, but the ones for the flows and all, which are the like basic use cases. If everything of that is merged, I just want to cross check with the team, and if that is done, then we could tag it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Please provide feedback today, one way or the other.
Sure.
That's great.
So back to the alarms part, given that conversation, I would say anything alarm related preferably would be now 2.1, whether it's mimicking the 1.x world or going ahead and turning it into the 2.x world. You know, regardless of 2.0, it's pretty much set at this point. So now, you know, buying some time before 2.1 is tagged, does that make things easier, or does the priorities change? You know, that I guess it's up to the people working on it.
Mm-hmm. One question, you know, I know right now the 2.0 branch has not in any way of form to be integrated with the CBA northbound, right? So my question is, you know, is, for example, the new ONT event comes up, would that be the same process? I think, you know, to me, I think that's probably the first one that, you know, if you want to integrate it to the CBA then the new ONT alarm for the ONT registration is the first thing, right? So I'm just curious, with the 2.0, will the sequence of the event will be the same, but I just wonder, you know, whether the functionality or mechanism will need to be changed.
Probably need to be changed, given that what's in there right now, you know, likely was either untested or very minimally tested. It probably just won't work.
Right.
What I can say though is, at least with the Python adapters, anywhere that asked for a logical ID, I stuck the regular device ID. So just as a stopgap, right now, the device ID is what's put into that field.
Okay.
Whether that's functionally, whether that actually flows through the right way or not, and it's what people expect, I would expect it's probably not what they expect, but you know, that's what's there right now.
Okay. I wonder what if the Golang side also Go adapter is also using the same thing. Okay. I think that required detailed discussion, based on that JIRA ticket, the logical ID. It's good discussion. Yeah, I think the direction we pick, I think it's a right way to do. So Amit, if you can get anything feedback as soon as possible to the team, that'd be great. So we'll tag it to that 0. Julie, back to you, and then I may start floating that logical device ID for the alarm stuff. So do we still need that further discussion on the VOLTHA discuss on that JIRA tickets on the VOLTHA discuss? Sorry. VO 1651, including VOLTHA device ID in the alarm raised by Golang. So is this still? I think that we know this has a lot of discussion around this. Shall we? Sorry.
Well, it's not just the logical device ID, right? Like it's really, do we want to keep doing what we did in 1.x or move into 2.0 framework?
That's right.
Pretty much what it is, right?
Right. And then I think the consensus already, as far as I could hear, is moved to the 2.0 framework, right? So
yeah, that's what I would prefer to happen.
Okay. Great. Anybody else has any comment regarding to the direction we take? I just want to let people know, if you don't raise the concern, then we think that's a go. Okay, Julie, back to you.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item, 1652. Namespace which a router D monitors should be configurable. And this one, it looks like there is an assignee. David, it was one you opened up, and it looks like it has actually been merged.
Yeah, I think this is done.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and move it into the sprint first. I'll close it out. And change it to done. Okay, and then the next one. Actually, any questions from the group? I forgot to ask. Sorry. Okay, next is 1653.
Julie, are you sick?
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah.
I didn't want to let the team down, so I'm here.
Just sounds like it's painful to talk.
It's not pleasant.
She actually sent a concert on Saturday. Sorry, has this been recorded?
So?
That's not proprietary information.
No, it's not.
Sorry.
Okay. So next, 1653, optimization during OMCI messaging, decreasing queries towards core. And Mahir, it looks like you are going to be working on this one and reported it as well. And we do have a detailed description. And it looks like we have a number of patches in Garrett as well.
Yeah, this is a good example of that we were holding off on until 2.0 was tagged. It looks like a good change and needs to be done. It's just wanted to tag 2.0 first.
Okay, got it. Any other comments on this item?
And a comment from me, and this is Mahir. We made change only in Python adapter now, but after this task is confirmed and the patch is applied, then I plan to open another task for the Golang OpenILT also.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, then we'll move on to 1654, adapter sentinel returned as part of the adapter list. And David, it looks like this is a bug opened by you, and we don't have an assignee yet. Any comments or questions?
Well, you can assign that to me. It's a bug.
And sorry, what's adapter sentinel? Sentinel.
Oh, this is kind of a workaround that we put in before adapters get registered. It's a way to enable us to have callbacks when new adapters comes in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're not receiving those callbacks. It's something that we may even think of removing for now, but it's pretty much like the read-write core. Like when you do a list of adapters, it won't return the adapter sentinel because we just block it because it's just more something internal. But in a read-only core, we don't have the code to block it. So that's why if you do adapters and that goes into the read-only core, then you see this sentinel. So we just need to block it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Next is another defect opened with high priority. 1655 OF agent stops attempting to connect to AF router on repeated failures at startup. And David, this is another of yours, currently unassigned. Any questions from the group?
Well, chances there's a limited number of retries on the OF agent. So we need to change that. So this is something that we'll deal with it. It could be either me or Stefan or Kent, or maybe even David. Maybe you want to.
Yeah. As I said, I don't know if we have to assign these. These are a bunch of bugs that go in the backlog, and when people free up, they get done. Yeah.
Okay.
But this seems like based on what it's high, right? So David, is this something you can do?
There's a couple that I've marked as high, because they stop the system from functioning. Can I work on it? Again, once I finish off the template stuff for the Helm start charts, I will definitely look at some of this stuff. I don't know. I just leave this as unassigned right now, and when people get free from backlog, people can go look at the bug list and grab a bug.
Yeah, it makes sense to leave it like that way.
Okay, so I'm thinking we've got.
I'm still creating bugs.
And you're doing a good job of that. We have this week and next week for the active sprint. I'm not sure if anyone is going to have time to do this during this sprint or not. So I think probably the high defects, if we don't get them covered in sprint 1, we probably need to target for sprint 2, would be my guess. But we'll get covered what we can in sprint 1. Sean, any other questions or comments, or anyone else? Okay, let me go on to the next one. Another high priority defect, 1656 with PONSIM, OF agent reporting incorrect number of reports.
That's actually number of ports, not reports.
Okay.
That makes more sense, I bet.
Well, it's not letting me, why is it not letting me try again? There we go. Okay, any questions from the group? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our next one. 1657, another high priority defect. OF agent loses connectivity to ONOS. Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to our next one. Another high priority defect. 1658, able to create but not delete device. Any discussion from the group? Okay. And our next one, hold on one moment. Vol 1659, a new medium priority story that was opened again by David. Match RW and RO cores in affinity router by labels, not pod names. A description down here from David as well. Any comments or questions from the group?
Other than they all wish this David person would go away.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Vol 1660, attempting to list adapters without any adapter containers, crashing RO core. And another defect opened by David. Any questions from the group? Okay. Next one, Vol 1661, another defect. This one is listed as a blocker. And starting VOLTHA, sometimes the API server needs to be restarted to work.
This one got marked as a blocker, mostly because I found it really annoying.
Well, yeah, it can be. But do we know the cause? Do we know the root cause?
No, I haven't done root cause analysis on a lot of these things. And again, a lot of these were found when I was going to the Helm charts, getting them up and running. And I just started dumping bugs as I found issues.
Hey, that's great. David, are you open? No. I think these are very, very good find. So, Ken, do you have any comment on this?
Good job, David.
And stop.
I was going to say that, but no. I think this is just like you put in your comment, right? This is pretty much the order of how things are being started. Chances are like that maybe the affinity router is starting before the other cores in this or other containers in the system, and it doesn't get to refresh its memory. And when you restart it, then it gets everything back from Kubernetes. So it could be the order in which things are being done, but definitely it's an issue that needs to be dealt with.
How about other people from the community? Do we understand, or do? To be honest, I think the core and then the AR. I do hope other people from the community, in addition to the architect or technical lead on this one, can pick it up and then do some work. So get familiar with whatever has been designed and implemented. But okay, in the short term, so is it just the order of the software start sequence need to be addressed, or
no? We do not want to have a startup dependency order. What it is somehow the API server needs to be able to get events when new pods are added, or so when the cores come up and down, which I think it's supposed to do, which could mean there's a bug in the A router D portion of the API server. So it needs to be root caused, but no, by all means, we do not want to enforce a startup order.
Okay. So Ken, is this something at least you guys can work on?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll take some work on this too. As soon as once the Helm charts are done, my plan was to start working on some of these bugs. And Kent, I don't know if he's on the call too. He'll be working on some of this stuff too.
Okay.
This has been a blocker for people just using read-write core only, right? If you're just using the core by itself and the adapters, this is only if you're using AF router and a cluster of cores, correct?
Well, that's technically true. If you're only using the read-write core and not all the other stuff, I would humbly ask you to stop and use the whole system, just because we'll find more of the bugs.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is for anybody doing development work, typically they run just the one core and do whatever else they're doing. This doesn't stop that. But in a full-fledged environment, absolutely right, we need to start running the whole thing.
It does not stop that development cycle. That is true. My concern is that development cycle will mask bugs that we won't catch until later. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather catch them earlier in the development process.
I think, David, that also come along with your system testing question, right?
Yes, my rant from last week.
Is that already a week? Okay.
It's been a whole week since I've ranted.
So, Julie, I already assigned this to David, but at the same time, so let me ask one question. It can, for the minimum development environment, I mean, the AR, does AR support single core also?
Not, it does, but you have to change the config quite a bit for that, which kind of defies the purpose of having AR in the development environment. I'm somewhere between what Matt's thinking and David's thinking, because in the development environment, when you're trying to do development and local testing, it's much easier just to run a one instance of everything and bypassing the AF router, like just to get the code in. But it would be nice also, like once we have our code setting, like if every development team has some environment where they have a form of cluster with AF router and everything set up there, so they can do a final check before submitting their code. That I think that would be good too.
So let me ask one question. I think service provider A may want to have the cluster configuration, and service provider B, they say, well, we don't really need that, right? So in that case, if I don't need the clustered core, does it mean the AR is no longer needed in the deployment scenario?
Everything is built to have a AR in it, so you can't really take away the affinity router and assume that this is going to be a real deployment.
Yeah, I think that the system is designed to have this API server fronting read-write and read-only cores. So from a deployment option, there's not you can't run the AR.
Can you say that again?
From a deployment, I said it wrong, English. The system is designed, as Ken was saying, to have the API server, which I'm calling now AR, I'm calling the API server, just to confuse people. It's designed to have that fronting read-write cores and read-only cores. Mm-hmm. So all deployments must have that API server mm-hmm. and the read-write and read-only cores.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but do I need to? But instead of using 3 servers, but what if some service provider they only want to use 1?
So if you
can still have AR.
Number of servers and number of cores are different. Although, to be honest, if you've run the read-write pair on a single server, you really have broken your HA model in terms of hardware failure. Can it be done? Certainly. But again, there are consequences to those decisions.
You could potentially also have 3 VMs on the same server, which is not ideal, but if you want to follow the model and break the HA model a little bit, but to still make it work, you can still have 3 VMs on the same server.
Now, the Helm charts I'm building are built use anti-affinity to ensure that read-write pairs, there's only one on each Kubernetes node. So if you want to run only one Kubernetes node and everything on one Kubernetes node, then there would have to be tweaks around some of that affinity or anti-affinity.
Okay, so as a community, what we support is the architecture we defined. If any service provider, if they say they don't want to use clustered, what I'm saying, they don't need HA, then our solution may not fit. Is that a statement we want to, is that true?
Well, at that time, we want to address it and make changes then, but there's no reason for us to set up for a hypothetical scenario that shouldn't exist, right?
Okay. Hey, Ken, nice hearing your voice. Okay, I think Ken, yeah. I just want to make it clear for the community to, so if that's a position we're taking, and then I think that is totally.
I mean, yeah, and it's not only our position, right? The base of this is Kubernetes. No one in production runs single node Kubernetes. That doesn't make sense. Then you just might as well run Docker.
Okay. No, I mean that is great. So maybe again, so on the I'm just thinking some of this stuff, that potentially people will ask, right? So we should put it in the release note. This is the architecture. This is what we support. This is how we design it. This is how you should be deploying it. If you deploy something other than this kind of configuration, then it may not work without additional work from the community, or you take it home, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a little segue over here with a question to Zach. Maybe it was already on VOLTHA Discuss and I missed it. Related to documentation and the demo example you gave last week with a Sphinx-based approach, were you able to provide a means for people to go kind of play around with that themselves, take a look at what you put together? Or
so, yeah, so that's still in progress. The main issue, which I shared, I think, offline with Sean Bissett, was doing some conversion of some of the existing things or existing documentation over. And so the core problem is that we have a lot of people who like to use tables. Tables are an extension, a fairly well-defined, but an extension to the Markdown spec. And all of the documentation tools that I was trying were very strict and said that's not part of the spec. So I'm trying to do a bunch of things to work around it. I found a bunch of people who have made hacks to work around it. So I didn't feel comfortable uploading something that wasn't covering such a big use case. There are a few options that I can present, but I didn't feel like I was ready to say, here's a way we should go if it had some really obvious holes in it. But thanks for asking, Julie. I'm still working on this. It's just I'm hitting technical problems related to different people's interpretation of documentation specs.
All right. Thanks for the update, Zach.
One more additional question to Zach. So Zach, so on the SIBA project, is the community on the SIBA side aware about the changes on the documentation, potential changes on the documentation?
Yeah, we're still a little split over there about because we have everything currently working with Gitbook, and there's some people who have the opinion of let's just ride this until it stops working again, which I don't generally agree with, but it is the minimal amount of work we could do, and it's like if it isn't broken yet, don't fix it, and wait until it breaks before we try to fix it. So I kind of like to get ahead of the issue, but
David.
I guess, and I didn't. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want to propose that on for the VOLTHA side of it.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still in flux. I don't want to propose something that's that is already obsolete. That's the main concern I had, at least from from working and trying to get VOLTHA on board with something.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, but hopefully we have something, common can be determined pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Next issue is 1662. This one is need ability to provide server-side filtering for listing gRPC methods. This is another from David, and we do have a description here. Any questions or comments?
Hey, David, you look like you're working hard these days.
I never work. I never work hard.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, it was a lot easier to come up with some of these than I thought.
I know, and you know what? You need to be in charge of closing them too. Okay. Okay.
I gotta open them all before I close them. This one's important in terms of this one. The next one are important in terms of potential changes to the API because they bigger impact potentially.
Any questions from the group? Okay.
So you say it's important, but you mark it medium, right?
Okay. Important in terms of if we go forward and do this, which I think we need to, the API, there may be non-backward compatible changes to the API.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the next one. 1663, need ability to page large result sets from VOLTHA.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for the group? Okay, next then we'll move on to 1664, query affinity pair instance information from affinity router. And we have examples of the info below. Any questions on this item? Okay, I'll move on to the next one. 1665, BBSIM radius authentication test case. And JIRA, looks like you are currently working on this item. You're on the bridge.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yes.
So this one and the next one are the last two test cases for onto the BBSIM side. So before I move on to VOLTHA 2.0.
Great. Any questions from the group?
So Jill, do you know when this 2 will be done?
Shortly. It shouldn't be too difficult.
Okay.
I've got the first one going already. So yeah, I should have a Garrett review going shortly.
Okay. I think we still would like to see the assessment on the 2.0 migrating your platform into your test suite into the 2.0. So I'll contact you and see when can you provide that assessment.
Yes. Okay. We'll do that separately.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll go on then to 1666, which is BBSIM DHCP test case. And I'm guessing, Gilles, you'll take this one on once you complete the radius authentication test case you're currently working on.
That is correct, yes.
All right, any questions? And the next one we have is 1667. Read-write core should generate instance ID if not set. This is another reported by David with a medium priority for the story. And we do have a description here. David, would you like to summarize?
Yeah, it turns out that I'm actually do some of this, but there needs to be cleanup between the command line options, which it basically looks like it almost ignores the instance ID command line option today, or in most cases. And there needs to be some consistency between the read-write core and the read-only core and how this handles it. Today, I believe I read the code correctly, it always uses the host name, even though it has an instance ID option. I honestly think there probably should be a change to that to not always use a host name, allow an instance ID option as I specified, hey, pick a random one, pick the host name, or specify something. And that should be consistent between the read core and the read-only core, or read-only core and the read-write core. So some of this might just be code cleanup that needs to happen.
Okay.
Sounds more like a bug to me than a story.
Yeah, I get that. It was weird when I looked at it. They had in the KH documentation where they basically said they were setting the instance ID, and even in the code comments it talked about, and it defaults to this, right? Some constant, some static. But when I looked at the code, because I said, okay, what would it take to change it? Because I need to change it to do testing. I found out it was already using the host name, and I don't know. It could go either way as a bug or a story. Something needs to change, though.
Yeah, for sure.
So can others, do we want to change it to a bug or leave it as is?
Which way is it most likely going to get work done on
it? We're supposed to prioritize defects over new stuff.
Let's call it a bug then.
Okay.
And do we have a potential assignee?
Yeah, everybody on the call is a potential assignee.
Okay. When I get a chance, I will take a look at it.
Okay, so Ken, can I put your name down then? And then
Sure.
if it needs to be reassigned to someone else, then we can just do that. We'll have you there for now. Okay, then the next one, 1668, clean up default rules leftovers in the core. Ken, it looks like this one you've assigned to yourself and had opened as well.
Yeah, there was a change that was put a while back for tech profile not to have default rules set for the own new devices. When the code was put in, it just like just one part of in the code, it just say, oh, don't add default rules. So if we want to remove default rules, we have to clean up really everywhere where we have reference for default rules, and also remove the piece of code that actually create a default rule. So this is really for cleanup in the code for that.
Okay. Do you think we should put this one in sprint 1 or not necessary?
It's not necessary to put it in the sprint 1, but I think it needs to be worked in first before we start to add more functionalities to for decomposition, because otherwise we'll just have this left over all the times.
And then I guess maybe the sprint 1 question really depends on your availability since it's assigned to you. So I'll leave that up to you in terms of whether you're able to do this in sprint 1.
Okay, thanks.
See if anything else came in. All right, I don't see anything new, so we'll have to defer discussion on the status for the current sprint. But we did get through all the new issues today, so thanks for the discussion, and I'll give you just about 3 or 4 minutes back then. Let me just quickly ask if anyone has any other topics that need to be discussed with the group in the remaining few minutes.
Hi, this is Amit.
Okay.
Regarding what we talked about in the earlier in the call, I did check with the team, and we are okay to put in the tag today.
Great.
That's great news.
Yep,
Thank
thanks.
you.
So is that something? I don't know. Matt is still on. Is that something Redis need to do, or they just approved? I mean, do you know what to do to tag the 2.0 release?
Not really.
Okay. I'll send the email out. And Matt, are you still on?
Yes, I didn't hear a word of anything you just said.
Keep planning to take dates.
Amit said they are ready to tag also.
Great. I'm pushing the button right now.
Okay. So you will do that.
Happening right now. Literally right now.
Done.
Okay.
Finished. Good. Now I can go on
All right.
vacation.
Well, I wish I'd
get
see what
back
you
to-
do.
And all the 2.0 for the core, at least, those Docker images are published now, so you can go grab them. Congratulations, everyone. 2.0 is released.
Hey! Thanks, Zach.
Amit, thanks for getting back to us so quickly on checking on that with your group. So much appreciated. And any other last items to talk about before we drop the bridge?
Just one comment. Yesterday on the FCAPS, VOLTHA FCAPS, on the PM related, there was some demo on the FCAPS brigade. Probably within 2 weeks, we'll invite, I think Ganesh, I think Ganesh to the VOLTHA and then do a demo there in a couple of weeks. Okay, Julie, thank you.
Yeah, we will go ahead. I'll stop the recording and we'll drop the